Good morning. So I'm really curious, who got more than 3 hours of sleep last night? Oh, we're all awake. 5 hours? 8? Okay. That surprised me. I saw people out here pretty late last night. Anyway, my name is Todd Mitchell, and I'm the technical product owner of SUGCON Europe. And today we're going to talk about mobile analytics with xDB, how to collect the data and do a small amount of analytics on that with the experience profile. So I read some article on the internet, and because it's on the internet, it's got to be true, that says there are more mobile devices connected than there are humans on the earth. It's a whole lot of mobile devices. I don't recall the source of the article, but like I said, it's really got to be true. But with that many devices, it's obvious why we want to collect that data to provide hyper-relevant experiences. Right? Marketers often ask the questions, what's actually working on my mobile app? How are my mobile campaigns doing? What features should I invest in? And who's actually using these features? Or if you're a UX designer, you want to know where are people pinching and zooming where we don't support it, and how are they actually using the application? So these are a few reasons why you want to collect an xDB, but also other major reasons is because we centralize a lot of data into xDB, so we provide really contextually relevant experiences in all future touch points with your customers. So let's think about Starbucks for a moment. They introduced an app called Click and Collect in the UK. I don't know if it's up like this now, but basically it allows you to open your app, choose a store, set a location, choose a store, choose a coffee, and purchase that. And you can walk in the store and pick up that coffee while you go. If we think about this app being integrated with xDB, what would that look like? Well, we have the user or the contact, right? Maybe the slide works. Here we are. And xDB, we collect these things called interactions, which I'm sure you're all quite well familiar with now. And on these interactions, we can collect what's called a channel, which specifies the source of the interaction. But because we're on a mobile device and because we've turned that on in Starbucks so I can find my store, we can collect the GPS coordinates and also we can collect when it happened, amongst lots of other data. We can also collect something called an outcome. This is where money changes hands. This is what brands actually go for. They're trying to get you to purchase a ticket to Hawaii, or they're trying to get you to purchase a coffee. And then we can link that interaction to the outcome itself, and we can start to say what channels lead to actually purchasing coffee, or what mobile apps are actually working. We can also do funny things like saying what areas or what are the GPS coordinates that are leading to coffee purchases. Then we can also collect when they actually pick up the coffee. And if we know about the position they're ordering the coffee, and we know the time they're ordering the coffee, and we know when they're walking into the store, then we know when to start making coffee over time. Now that seems a little pedantic, but if you think about really relevant experiences, most coffee lovers love their coffee to be fresh and hot immediately, right? So we can collect this on an individual basis in xDB. And of course, you can analyze that in the macro scale. The other funny thing to do here is you know the coordinates of when someone's actually purchasing coffee, or GPS coordinates, you know the time. Right around the time they're traveling to those coordinates, you can just prompt them, would you like your regular coffee? It gets a little weird, but it could be fun anyway. So this introduces a few challenges. How do I map my screen structure in a mobile device? Right? Just like the website, you have a landing page, and you have a detailed page and a product page. Well, usually in a mobile app, you have the same sort of thing. Now, also, how do I map the mobile experience, which is screen views and screen clips and events, into xDB? Then how do I actually track that person into xDB? So let's focus on how to map the screen structure into xDB. We take this Starbucks app. Of course, they have a landing page, and in Site4, because we collect a lot of content, or we collect a lot of experiences through viewing of content, we need to tie that to a content so that we can run reports on that later on. And of course, there's a list page as well, which you can tie to a content, and that's fairly straightforward. Oops, go back for a second. And then, of course, you have products. If the products come from some other system, You need to map those into Site4 so you have a constant item for those products as well, which gives you a way to collect that information, or it gives you a way to track that information when you're actually doing analytics over it. The next question is, how do I map a mobile experience into xDB? Well, we know that we have a mobile app. There's always a user, and one second, we'll slow there. And of course, you have behavior on the mobile app, right? Screen navigation and views, where they're going, screen events, what they're clicking, what they're purchasing. And of course, on the mobile device, we have lots of sensor data, right? GPS courses we talked about. You also have gestures, the way they're moving on the phone themselves, whether they're trying to swipe and whether they're trying to long tap. And of course, you have those sensor data like the angle of the phone and all those good things. With xDB, step back for a minute, see if it works better. xDB has eventually collected contacts and interactions. And interactions consist of a lot of elements of data. And so we could map these fairly easily from mobile app to xDB, as you see on the screen there. A user is, of course, a contact, that's pretty obvious. But also we collect personas and behavior profiles. And those can also help identify your user and map to your user as well. We have page views. Those are very similar to screen navigation and views. And we have screen events, which can become an xDB events, goals, or outcomes. And sensor data, well, xDB supports custom data all over the place, so you can pretty much stuff it in there as you see fit, and then use it later on. So, once you've mapped your screens to content, and you've mapped your experiences into xDB, you know how you want to collect what screens, and you set your channel, all those good things. Then you need a method to be able to get the data into xDB. There we are. So obviously, you don't want to have your mobile device connect directly to xDB. That's the dangerous. I think your security architect will be on your door pretty quickly. So we have this content delivery environment, which everyone's quite familiar with. And in that environment, we have a few APIs that are part of the analytics namespace. We have a contact repository, which allows you to manage contacts. We have an API called the interaction registry that allows you to push interactions in, and also an outcome manager, which is where you can actually update and add outcomes. And I'll talk more about those in a minute. Now, these APIs exist in content delivery, but they're not available on the surface area, so you need to be able to collect your API that allows you to integrate with those. There we are. And of course, you need a way of tracking what happens on the phone. The mobile tracker idea is basically very similar to our web tracker, where it's tracking what's happening within the session itself before it's sent back to xDB. Now, alternative to building this mobile tracker, you can do something like FXM. And that works pretty well if your user is always online. But the idea behind this mobile tracker is that it can collect what's actually happening when the user goes offline. And whenever they get a connection again, they can push that back into xDB. So a bit more details on these APIs. I mentioned what the contact repository was. The interaction registry is an API that allows you to collect interactions or track interactions somewhere else. And then once you've got that full interaction record, you can replay that interaction in the registry itself. And what it does is it goes through all the pipelines that normally execute during a web session and replays those. So if you register an interaction that has a series of page views, and those page views have tags on them that say that score a particular persona or score a particular behavior profile or a goal, it will replay those for you. The nice part here is you're able to tag your content and change the way it's scored, change the way it's collected in xDB without redeploying your client. And of course, the outcome manager that just registers outcomes. So let's go through a demo. I think I need to flip this mode here 1 second. You see Visual Studio, good. So I built this this native Windows app here. I'm just going to run it briefly. And while that's running, I'm going to walk you through the solution briefly. So the solution basically consists of a native Windows app on 8.1. And also there is this tracker API that I mentioned earlier, and that runs on the phone itself. And then there is a model that is the information that we're going to collect and track on the phone. And this is shared between the mobile collect model, which is basically the API endpoint that we're going to use to collect the information. So let's take a quick look at this tracker here to give some context. It's fairly straightforward. In this example, basically, I'm assuming the contacts are already identified. You can do this with anonymous contacts as well, but this prototype doesn't include that right now. So essentially, you have this tracker that has the individual contact and also the interaction that you're tracking. And of course, it has the ability to store the experience. And that does nothing more than serialize this experience data that you've tracked and push that over HTTP to the mobile collect client itself. Let's see, so now, resolution's a bit off here. So basically I've taken some dummy data and mapped that to content that I actually have in the content tree, and that's what this is here. Now I'm not using that, I'm not pulling that content in directly, but I am mapping the content items. So if I just bring Sitecore up here, and go to the content editor. So essentially, these content items are products showing inside of this mobile app here, right? So the tracker itself is actually bound to the navigate events of these individual views in the Windows app. So if I browse to this picture here, and basically what I've done is added a screen view for this particular picture itself, and we can capture ratings. If I rate that up, I can do that. And as I navigate backwards, uh-oh, I can't get to the hardware back button. 1 second, I'm gonna flip this resolution back. Nope. Well, what you would see, if I could get to that button, is that would navigate backwards. I think I have to reboot this emulator now. And while that's happening, give me 1 minute. All right, so that would take just a moment to come up. But in the meantime, there we go. So essentially, I've mapped these products in that UI itself. And as I mentioned with the interaction registry, it's going to replay all of these items whenever I actually do register the interaction itself. So that means I can do things like set these personas on there and score those after the interaction gets collected, or I can go to the Analyze tab and actually actually use that as well. That deploy is still happening, so I'll just continue to show you what I mean here. So for this particular content item, if I go to this Events tab and tag any of these particular campaigns or any of these events, when I replay the interaction registry, it will actually score those for me as well. Yeah, I think we're up. Let's just see if this works. Yeah, you have a back button now. All right, so as I said, that binds to the navigation event. Just notice I'm being prompted for my location data because I'm collecting the location of everywhere you view a particular screen. Just tell that yes, and I'll rate that up a couple times. Then I have this back button here. So basically all that does, let me flip back to Visual Studio here. Let's see how that goes. All right. Basically what I've done is taken that tracker and bound it to this navigate event. Every time you navigate to a particular screen, I new up a screen view. This is much like new up a page view in our tracker today in the web world. And I've given that a content item, as I mentioned, that maps in the content tree itself. Of course, I set the start date time. And every time you navigate away from it, time, and I can do other things with that, right? I can also take a screenshot if I want to and capture other information. I lost my back button again. Okay, so now that I've viewed that one particular one, I'm just going to hit collect here. And all it's going to do is push that data into xDB over that API. And that's what you just saw the little green thing show up to do there. Okay. Bear with me on the monitor fun. All right, so for this individual contact, this is who I was just collecting for. If I just revisit the experience profile here, you can see that I basically have collected on a specific mobile channel registry itself, and I've scored some value points here. And the value came because in the content editor for those particular goals or those page events, I'll just browse through those briefly. They basically have value points set on them. And that works because the interaction registries replan all of those things, right? The other interesting thing here that I can do is if I just look at the details, I can look at the actual individual page that was viewed, lightsaber, Vader, and see that I rated them up a couple of times. You get really specific with information. Another interesting thing is also I just, because I'm collecting a screenshot as you navigate through the application itself, and I'm actually storing the screenshot in xDB as binary data, I can actually see the screenshot of what they're actually navigating. And then, of course, let's see here. There's no back button for that. So give me 1 minute. Yeah, that's no fun. You have to restart it again. Note to self, never trust an emulator with resolution. I'll have to do a real phone next time. There we are. That deploy is still happening. So the other thing we can do, once that comes up, I'll show you, is navigate to a particular view, and we can actually capture gestures as they try to pinch and zoom on particular photos. That's not normal data a marketer would care about. They're definitely going to care about seeing where people are trying to pinch and zoom and click where you actually don't support it. So we'll just click on a random picture here of Stephen Pope. And if I were to just tap on his head here, do a long tap. Now the gesture, there's a gesture processor inside of the Windows mobile application SDK that's able to detect when you're trying to long tap or when you're trying to right click. And if I also just drag to the right here, just grab that as a gesture as well. And let's rate Stephen up a couple times there. As a matter of fact, I want a poster. So I think I'll buy a poster as well. Just navigate backwards here. Now I'll collect this interaction itself. And we'll just browse over here. I can do this from afar. Just refresh this here. course, we can see that next interaction that came in, which is this one here. And we can see where we looked at Pope and rated him a couple of times, but we can also see where I've made a purchase for the, there it is right there, I think. Yeah, I made a product purchase for the particular poster of Stephen Pope, all right? And if I dip into Mongo, because we're storing custom data, which I can do on the outcomes here, this is just the outcomes collection where we store them all. But looking at the custom values, I can see where the actual product that was purchased was the Pope. And then one more thing you can do here that's quite interesting is, if I go back to the, here we are, visits, and I click on the screenshot here, because we captured the gesture data, I'm able to take all the data points and overlay just circles using the canvas on top of that, which lets us see what they're actually moving their particular hand, right? Also capturing the actual gesture that actually occurred, whether that was a cross slide or a right click or a long tap. And with a bit more time, you can of course overlay text that shows exactly what's happening. Now, so Mark, we're going to say, care analyst, this is gold, because they can actually see when people are trying to use their application, when it's not meeting their expectations and things like that. Okay. Let's take a brief look here at the, one minute to share my screen again. Okay. So let's take let's browse this tracker a bit more, then we'll take a look at the interaction registry and the mobile collector API. So as I mentioned, the tracker itself is bound to all of the events in the, there we are. It's bound to all the events in these particular views. If I go to an image detail view, for the navigated to, of course, I'm doing the same exact thing. I'm grabbing the image that's supposed to be loaded. That's just the content item itself, showing that information. And you can see here, I'm actually tracking the gestures that occur, or I'm going to new up and be able to track the gestures that occur. And then I'm also going to new up the screen view that says, okay, I'm now started tracking this particular screen. And then if I scroll down here, from navigated from, when you move away from that particular screen, then I'm going to add that particular screen view, and I'm going to set the date time there, saying this is when it ended. But also I'm going to grab a screenshot, as you saw earlier here, and I'm going to get the also location data so I can see where they were when they actually were looking at the particular screen. And then because I was tracking the gestures throughout the view itself, or throughout the as they were moving their finger around the particular picture, I'm going to serialize that and ship that back to XDB as well. Now, earlier you saw me pushing the buttons where I was rating things up and down. That's just this simple button event handler, and all we're doing is newing up an event. This is fairly straightforward, and we're just going to add that to the screen views. It is that you have these screen views, which are much like page views, and you have these page events, or screen events, which are much like page events. There's really no difference here in terms of how you can map the data in. Okay, and I'll just go back to the tracker here. And of course, when we're collecting the data itself, whenever I hit that collect button, we're just storing the experience which posts to the other endpoint. Now, this prototype doesn't include detecting scenarios where the user suspends the application by taking a phone call or resuming it, but in this case, it's fairly straightforward to plug into those particular events and cache the data that you're tracking in the local data store itself. And when they resume, you can pull it back into memory and use it. So once we hit the store experience here, that's essentially calling this mobile collector endpoint, where I pass over that same experience object itself. We're going to use the contact repository. I'm sure you guys are quite familiar with that by now, to load the contact by their identifier, which is just here. And we're going to grab the channel off that. And as I mentioned earlier, because we've already tracked the interaction offline, or in the mobile app, I should say, all I need to do is replay that in the interaction registry. So here I'm just going to new up an interaction record itself. This first parameter is the actual site name that will get stored in Sitecore. It needs to be a real site that you actually have running. I'm just using website for this demo, but it needs to be a real site in your sites node. And now we just go through a really simple mapping operation. It's a bit mundane, really. I'm just going to map the experience interaction custom values to the interactions custom values, set the venue itself, which is the physical location where something occurred. Then I'm going to take all the screen views. I'm going to map those as well. This touch point record is actually, it represents a page view itself. We'll rename that at some point, but it basically represents a page view. So I'll just fire up a new page view here at the touch point record itself, snap on a screenshot, and add the other custom values that you saw before, and then tag my events. This is all straightforward. I'm going to skip past that there. Then with the interaction registry itself, it's just here. You need to new up an instance of it. And when you register, you need to give it the actual database to go against. I'm using master here, but of course, if you put the comment, you'll need to use web there, whatever you're using for your web database. What's really important here is that the database that you use has all the content items in it. So make sure you have all your data out there and you've published and all that good stuff. Otherwise, it will fail when it's replaying all the pipelines. So essentially, that just it just replays everything, much like you have in a web session. It adds it to processing, so it gets indexed and all that good stuff. And at the bottom here, I'm going to just register outcomes on the experience, which is also fairly straightforward as well, using the outcome manager. Because I can take multiple outcomes in on the experience, I'm just going to loop through them and add a new outcome. So a new contact outcome, we'll give it some time here as well. Then I'll map the custom values and save it. Okay, so we only have one blue screen where we missed the resolution was off. But that's a really simple way to be able to collect track experiences on your mobile devices and push those into this collector API and use all the existing APIs for content delivery. The interaction registry came out in 8.0. We did some updates in 8.1. And in 8.1 update 3, you can run it both on content delivery and also content offering. A few of the bits, obviously, grab a screenshot. It's not something you want to do in a production environment that's expensive, but it's really good for UX exploration. I mentioned earlier why not FXM. You can look at using FXM to track and collect mobile experiences, but it's focused on live traffic. And this prototype is focused on exploring something where you can collect regardless of where the user is. And of course, this is just a prototype, so we're targeting something very free, maybe earlier, depending on where Gabe. Depending on what he sets up there. Yeah, and with that, I will say thank you.
Okay. Any questions?